August 25th, 1944. General George S. Patton's Third Army had raced more than 400 miles in just 3 weeks. American tanks thundered past Paris, slicing through Germany's retreat routes. In Western Europe, the German army was collapsing. Entire units were abandoning vehicles, weapons, anything that slowed them down, and fleeing east toward the Rhine. Field Marshal Gunther von Kluge reported directly to Hitler that the Wehrmacht in France was finished. Between Patton's forces and the German border, there was nothing left to stop them. Then, the phone rang in Paris. Not because of German resistance, not because of logistics, but because of a political demand from a French general who commanded no American troops and controlled no American fuel. Charles de Gaulle was about to give Germany exactly what it needed most: time. 6 weeks earlier, American forces had been trapped in the Normandy hedgerows. Every field had become a fortress, every hedgerow a defensive wall. The advance toward Paris had bogged down into brutal, close-quarter combat. Everything changed on July 25th. Operation Cobra shattered German lines at St. Lo. General Omar Bradley's First Army broke through. On August 1st, Patton's Third Army became operational and immediately poured through the gap. The advance moved so fast that forward air controllers couldn't track the front line. Tank commanders drove beyond the edges of their maps. Units surged forward 30 miles a day through openings the Germans had no ability to seal. By mid-August, German commanders admitted they could no longer stop the Americans. The question was no longer if the Allies would reach Germany, but when. Patton's speed came at a cost. Third Army burned through nearly 400,000 gallons of fuel every day. Supply lines stretched hundreds of miles back to the Normandy beaches. The Red Ball Express ran around the clock. Drivers pushed past exhaustion to keep the tanks moving, but even that wasn't enough. By August 20th, fuel was running out. Patton ordered his commanders to keep advancing until their tanks ran dry. Momentum mattered more than caution. And the gamble worked. German forces in France were disintegrating. Paris was within reach. Beyond it lay open country straight to the German frontier. A tank commander in the 4th Armored Division wrote home that they could smell the panic among the retreating Germans. The men ran on adrenaline and caffeine, convinced they would be sleeping in Berlin by Christmas. Fatigue didn't matter. Ending the war did. Then, Charles de Gaulle stepped in. While Allied commanders debated Paris, Field Marshal Walter Model was working to save what remained of the German army. Hitler sent him west on August 17th with a single mission: prevent total collapse. Model arrived to chaos, units scattered, command broken, retreat everywhere. It looked hopeless. Then, he noticed something unexpected. The American advance was slowing, not because German resistance had strengthened, but because the Americans had stopped themselves. Reports reached Model's headquarters that U.S. forces outside Paris were no longer attacking, they were waiting. Model acted immediately. Every surviving German unit was ordered east. Defensive lines were established along the Moselle River. The Siegfried Line, stripped of heavy guns and left with skeleton crews, was reoccupied. Every day mattered. Every day the Americans hesitated, gave Germany another chance to recover. German officers could barely believe it. 1 week earlier, they had been fleeing in panic. Now they had time. Time to reorganize. Time to prepare defenses. Time that would cost tens of thousands of American lives. After the war, Model's chief logistics officer would testify that the week between August 20th and August 27th saved the German army from destruction. For de Gaulle, this moment had been 4 years in the making. Paris was more than a city, it was the symbol of France itself. Whoever liberated Paris would shape France's future. De Gaulle was determined that French soldiers, not Americans, not British, would march into the capital first. On August 21st, he confronted Supreme Commander Eisenhower. His demand was blunt: Paris must be liberated by French forces. Eisenhower explained the military reality. Patton was positioned to cut off German escape routes. Paris could be secured within days. There was no military reason to delay. De Gaulle wasn't interested in military logic. He cared about political reality. France had endured 4 years of occupation. The French people needed to see French troops liberating their capital. The Paris resistance had already risen on August 19th and was dying in the streets. Then de Gaulle issued his ultimatum. If Eisenhower didn't authorize French entry, he would order the French 2nd Armored Division into Paris anyway, breaking Allied command. Either way, the advance toward Germany would stop. Eisenhower had faced this dilemma before: battlefield efficiency versus coalition unity. He knew Washington's priority: keep the alliance intact, keep de Gaulle on board. Bradley protested. His armies were on the verge of breaking into Germany. Every day lost allowed the Germans to recover. Paris could wait. Eisenhower knew Bradley was right militarily, but politically, the French alliance mattered. Alienating de Gaulle now would create months of instability. He made his decision. The French 2nd Armored Division would liberate Paris. American forces would support the operation, but stay outside the city. The drive toward Germany would pause. When Bradley relayed the order, Patton exploded. He had momentum, he had open roads, and now he was being stopped so Paris could have a parade. On August 25th, French forces entered Paris. Tanks rolled down the Champs-Élysées. Crowds flooded the streets. Church bells rang across the city. De Gaulle stood in Notre Dame and declared France liberated. The images raced across the world. Politically, it was a triumph. What the cameras didn't show was the cost. While champagne flowed in Paris, Patton's tanks sat silent east of the city. Fuel that could have driven Third Army to the German border was being burned in celebration. The Red Ball Express diverted thousands of tons of supplies to Paris. The city alone required 4,000 tons of food, coal, and medicine every day. Every truck heading to Paris was a truck not supplying the front. American soldiers watched fuel convoys roll away from them, back toward the city. Men who had fought non-stop across France sat idle in the mud, cleaning rifles, while the gasoline they needed to finish the war disappeared behind them. Patton's staff calculated the cost. Supporting the liberation of Paris consumed enough fuel to move Third Army 100 miles closer to Germany, far enough to cross the Moselle before German defenses solidified. But military efficiency was no longer the priority. When Patton finally resumed the advance on August 28th, everything had changed. The chase was over. Instead of fleeing columns, American units slammed into prepared defenses. The Moselle River bristled with artillery. German units that had been collapsing a week earlier now fought from fortified positions along the Siegfried Line. By early September, fuel shortages returned. Then came the final blow. Fuel priority shifted north to support Montgomery's operations in Belgium. Patton was ordered to halt indefinitely. His army sat 100 miles from the Rhine with empty tanks. September gave Germany exactly what it needed. Fresh divisions manned the Siegfried Line. The chance to end the war in 1944 vanished. When the American advance resumed, it was no longer a race, it was a grind. Concrete bunkers, pillboxes, killing zones, battles that cost tens of thousands of casualties. Ground that could have been taken in days now took months. The summer victory turned into a winter war.
On December 16, 1944, Germany struck back in the Ardennes. The Battle of the Bulge used divisions that Model had saved during that critical week in August. Hitler bought himself the winter he needed. More than 80,000 American casualties followed. De Gaulle secured his political victory, Eisenhower preserved the alliance, and in the frozen forests of the Ardennes, American soldiers paid the price for that decision.